Alright, I'm just gonna ramble on while I'm practicing here. And one thing that I lose the knack for is pendulum strikes. I know I've called them something else, like dipping strikes, but it's just easier to call them pendulum strikes because that's what they are. Where you kind of swing, then you yank, and your weapon is aligned with your shoulders upon impact. And there's like an acceleration apex you kind of want on impact.
This was commentary while I was playing, so there's going to be some interruptions. This thing's a mess.
So you can reach over stuff. I can hit that guy's head without colliding with a sword. Advantages of a pendulum strike is you notice that weapon bounces right back into my face, which will bring it back up into a guard. And also, once it bounces back up into my face, I can come in with a follow-up tap. So it'll be something like this. So while the other person may be doing 360s like this, by the time they're back here and coming down, my weapon's rebounding back in front of my face, parrying that shot and coming in with a double tap. It's also something I'm trying to work on is more, what was that? More
Dude, I'm skeptical of the power that's behind that, but that looks really cool by accident.
You notice I've been doing that a little.
Now, the issue with thrusting shots in this game with two-handed weapons is biomechanically you put your core into a thrust. But in the game, you're kind of swinging it underhand, kind of like a battering ram into a door. So you're only getting the kinetic energy of that weapon, not your entire body. That's why I don't do it a lot, because it also robs you a lot of space. You need a lot of space to do it, and you need room, and it's more complicated than just swinging overhead.
A little bit more lately. I used to never do that, but that's definitely something I need to mix up into my move set, because of course the game is two-dimensional. You cannot swing horizontally or swing around stuff. You can either go over an obstacle or below an obstacle, but it's just a lot more intuitive to swing from up high. That's the pendulum strike. If you're not careful, you can pull a little too soon, and that weapon will decelerate a little bit too fast before it impacts.
All right, let's break down this egregiously anemic strike. You can see the largest frame gap there where I got the circle. That is the acceleration apex. So I slowed that weapon and basically stopped it on impact, and that's why it was so weak. So don't pull too soon.
So I'll hit softly, but there's a sweet spot when you're swinging like this. Now, of course, inertia is a lot more uniform when you just do 360s like this, but the pendulum swings take a little bit more accuracy. So let's put Blah up against Dave Ill.
All right, let me interrupt this to explain this point of impact in this form. As my left hand is still pushing, my right hand breaks, and that becomes the pivot point of the swing, and that reaches over his blocks and parries. And now, you notice I'm hitting with the middle of the weapon. That's the advantage to a lot of these cannibos, is I'm hitting with the full mass of that weapon from the middle. The geometry is going to change a little bit if I want to pendulum the tip into his face, but it's still the same general idea. I want the weapon to align with my shoulders upon impact. You kind of want your right hand to be pulling up as your left hand's still coming down and have that opposing leverage between hands as opposed to swinging both hands in the same direction at the same time. If my weapon collides with any part of his weapon, it gets parried, but the point is that pivot point got moved to my right hand. Therefore, all that forward momentum is unhindered.
That was very tight. There we go. Every weapon has their idiosyncrasies, and this depends on accuracy, because you have to hit with this little ball on the end. If you overshoot, if that ball doesn't hit directly, it doesn't do a lot of damage. And the worst thing you can do with these longer weapons is get them wrapped around somebody's waist and get hemmed up where you have that big open area they can attack down there. Then you got to back up, and of course, yes, it's dependent on accuracy. Now let's test it against Dave, see how long I can last against Dave with this awkward thing. Nothing.
All right, you can see here Dave only took significant damage when I connected with the ball.
There we go. Yeah, you got to be way more accurate with this thing than with the cannibos. And when anybody is like crunching up in your space, that weapon is very difficult.
That's a pretty interesting weapon, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Difficult to use. Okay, restart.
Well, you can see here the ball kind of missed, but I think it has more to do with the angular momentum of the swing.
Yep, see, you just got to flow with it. I'm swinging this thing too fast. It's like the sledgehammer analogy that I used earlier.
I did mention it earlier before I cut it because it was full of gaffes. There's a lot of cuts in this video.
You want to flow with it. You don't want to zip that thing over your head, or else you're just wasting energy over your head. You want to yank and whip it right on impact. You want that acceleration apex. What I call the acceleration apex is the point where the weapon is accelerating the most before it starts decelerating. So you want that apex to be right on impact. Whoops, I hit the wrong thing. I meant to restart Dave Hill here. And of course, if any part of your weapon collides with his weapon, it counts as a parry. So that's where those
Again, the shaft below the ball does massive damage. Call me a liar.
pendulum strikes come into play. Even if the head of the weapon's colliding with his head, if the shaft of that weapon's hitting those swords, it's going to deflect the shot. So yeah, this weapon's a lot more difficult to use, but I find that fascinating. Yep, I took out a hand. Some weapons are not as forgiving as other weapons, and that this is a weapon that will either reward you or punish you. And this weapon doesn't think twice about punishing you. Now let's try the frickin' meta. Let's try the meta against Dave. This has...
All right, here I'll trace the weapon in each frame, and the acceleration apex is going to be that biggest frame gap. Ideally, I want that to be bigger, but that was okay, I guess. Okay, so here's a much better acceleration gap. And this is an even better frame gap. Way better acceleration apex than the last three.
Compared to the hitting rod, I gotta slow down and flow with it, just like the sledgehammer analogy.
If I'm not slow-mowing or illustrating it, then it's not a stellar swing specimen.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and manually do this one so I have time to talk about it, so I'm not having to like speed up my voice and all that. But watch the frame gaps. All right, slider, okay. So I'm coming over my head. There's a slight stall here. You see how small those gaps are. The frame gaps will show you how fast the tip of the weapon is moving. Then it starts accelerating. Boom! Acceleration apex. It probably caught that frame in the middle of it. But from here to here. So you have the slight stall up here. Boom! The whip. And look how far that life bar is dumping. So anyway, and of course my weapon rebounds back up into a guard position. And depending on what I'm doing, I can snap that back into a follow-up shot. Boom! All right, another one using the editor slider. Okay, so, whoops, slider, okay. So coming up, still stalling. It's like the sledgehammer analogy. You don't want to zing this over your head super fast, but you kind of want this stall right here. And then when I yank my right hand back, boom, look at all that distance it traveled. So you go from this frame to this frame, and then you have the impact, and then the deceleration. So this gap right here, this is the acceleration apex. And that's that whipping action of my left hand pushing and my right hand starting to yank upward. And you can see my body is pulling backwards. So in a way, it's almost like swinging something in real life. Anyway. Yeah, I need to start using this thing more. Good grief. I like the hitting rod though. I like the speed and agility that the hitting rod has. The hitting rod is...
Also keep in mind with pendulum swings, you will get maximum reach.
It is like the perfect medium amidst all the cannibal type weapons. And that's why the hitting rod is my favorite. This one's good too, but in some frantic situations, this can be a little bit too sluggish, be a little bit too taxing on stamina. Just kind of want to get those flat pendulum strikes on top of his head. And generally, practicing against a bot like Dayville is pretty effective because Dayville, bots have a lot more footwork. Unless you're fighting like the highest tier people, if somebody moves like a bot, they're going to be a hard target. All right, 6. Let's go. 7. Oh, that got parried. Oh. Oh. Getting wrapped up. Oh, come on. Oh, I got rid of the sword. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, right in my eye. Anyway, 6. All right. I'll stick this part in and splice it in and do my little sign-off thing. All right, guys. Have fun. Don't die. I don't know what this video is, but hopefully it was helpful to somebody. Peace.